What up, though, guys? It's your man Dale with another episode. Today, I'm going to talk to you about a deal that I got from Postcard. I made $30,000 over the course of 2 years with it. I look for certain areas that I'm interested in purchasing rental properties in, and I look for absentee owners. Absentee owner is a person that owns a property in a particular city and they don't live there. I look for out of state absentee owners. I send them postcards or letters. What I usually do is I send them a postcard first because when I first started out, I was sending them letters. Now, letters can get a little expensive because you got the envelope, then you got the letter, then you got the stamp. And what I was finding is I was getting a lot of them coming back. So I'm like, man, you know what? This. I don't know how long I can sustain this. So what I would do is, um, I was pretty much in order to scrub my list, I would send out postcards first, and then all of the postcards that came back, I would just take those addresses off of my list or whatever because I know that that's the wrong address for these people. So then when I would follow up and send them a letter, I didn't really get any letters back. Probably one or two I would get back or whatever, but the majority of them, I didn't get back. So uh, I was saving quite a bit of money from doing that. That's why I say I've spent a bunch of money learning this stuff that I'm telling you, so that you don't have to do this, go through the same things that I went through. So I sent this letter out. Lady calls me back. She was from Hawaii. She's like, "Hey, yeah, I got one of your letters or one of your postcards." I'm like, "Okay, cool. So you got a house for sale?" She's like, "Oh, well, I'm kind of looking at it or whatever." She's like, "I owned it for a few years. It's currently vacant. Probably like within a year or so, I may be interested in doing something. So, but I'll give you a call back in that time." I'm thinking like, yeah, right. I'm never gonna hear from this lady again. But I spoke with her for probably about 35, 30, 40 minutes or whatever. Because I was, like I had a lot of anxiety, and I mean, to be quite frank with you, I was scared. I was frightened to talk on the phone. So whenever found a person that wasn't cussing me out or telling me no, I spoke to him a little bit longer. So this was the case with this young lady, and she told me that she'd give me a call back in a year or whatever. She's ready to sell. I'm like, yeah, whatever. So year and a half passes. I receive a phone call. Hey, yeah, this is from Hawaii. Yeah, we spoke a year ago. Do you remember? Okay, yeah, cool. Yeah, I remember you. What's going on? You ready to sell? Yeah, I'm ready to sell. Okay, great. So what are you looking to get for the property? Well, I paid 50,000 for it. I'm like, hold on, let me stop you right there. I'm like, $50,000. That's for people that actually, don't live here in this state, or in this city. Like I'm right here in the city. We don't pay that type of money for these houses, because we can actually put a little work into them ourselves, and so we got to get them for a little cheaper. So I'm like, what's the least you could take? That's another question you got to ask these people. What's the least that you would accept? Um, so she's like 35. I'm like, well, you know what, 35, that's still a little high. Um, hmm. But I may be able to give you that 35, but not all at one time. Um, Another point for you. You can give a person any price that they want if you're able to control the terms. Now, there's always two parts. You have the price and you have the terms. She gave me the price that she wanted. She said she wanted 35,000. So I have to control the terms. You have to control one or the other. So I gave her the terms in which I would give her the amount of money she was asking. She said 35,000. So I'm like, okay, I'm thinking, okay, I got to control the term. Let me ask you, when you pretty much purchased this property, you were probably, after paying your property taxes, your insurance, your property manager, maintenance, and all this type of stuff, you probably were only expecting to collect around about $250, $300 a month cash flow into your pocket, correct? She said, yeah, that was about it. So I'm like, okay, let me ask you, what if I was to that 250 that you were expecting to collect every month? What if I was to direct deposit that directly into your account, and each of those payments that I make you comes off of that $35,000 balance that I owe you? So she says, okay. So I'm like, okay. I'm like, man, you know what? Okay. I'm like a genius. I'm all excited. I'm like, I'm get this paperwork over to you. So I sends the paperwork over to her. Now, the following day, She calls me. She's like, well, I'm not able to sign that paperwork that you sent me. I'm like, oh man, what the happened now? And she says, well, I was talking to my advisor, and they say you have to have some type of skin in the game. I'm like, skin in the game. I'm like, oh, she want me to put some money down. I'm like, man, I'm trying to get in this deal with like no money, So I'm like, all right, what? I'm about to give you $3,000 down, and I'll and there will be like a balloon payment in 2 years. So she says, all right. So I'm like, all right. I'm like, that's still pretty good. I'm getting this house for 3,000 or whatever down. So um, she signs it, um, and I go in, put $4,000 worth of work into it on my credit cards. I didn't have the money, um, so I used my credit card, which I'm telling you, use whatever it is that you have. So I used that, um, and rented the house out for $850 a month. 250 of that I'm sending to her. So now I'm cash flowing $600 a month. So everything is going good. 21st month comes, and I'm starting to think like, man, you know what? Within 3 months, I'm gonna have to cash this lady out, and I'm gonna have to cash her out like 26,000 or something like that. So I'm like, man, I don't really want to, have to cash her out. Let me look at possibly be selling. So what I did was I actually went into Zillow. This is another key for you. I went to Zillow and I start looking for properties that have been sold in the area, and I was looking for properties that have been sold by they had gathered the most money, or whatever. So, and I'm looking to see who sold them. It shows you the agent that sold them. So then what I did was I contacted the agent. Well, it just so happened that this particular agent who has sold the house for the most money in this particular area happened to be an agent that I had already done business with. She actually sold me my primary residence. So I had her number right in my phone. I didn't even have to do any research. So I called her up. I'm like, look, I seen you sold this house over here. I know my house is a lot better than this. I told her the situation. I got like 3 months or whatever. She's like, okay, no problem. I'll get that sold for you. She's like, I can get you about 50 for it. Like, no problem. So I'm like, 50 grand. I'm like, I'm doing the math in my head. I'm like, that's about $24,000 profit. Like, so I've been cash flowing $600 a month for 21 months. Then after I sold the property, I will get a check. She's like, I got to buy it right now. So we closed a little bit before the 22nd month, and I pocketed, you know, almost $17,000, on the back end, after already collecting $600 a month for all of those months. This is something that, you know, you can actually get to. You can get to this point. This was actually like one of the, kind of like one of the last deals that I've done. Once I did this deal, I really saw that you really don't need a lot of money to pretty much purchase these rental properties or these properties or whatever. So that's why I'm starting off with this episode to kind of show you where you can go. And then I'm going to actually rewind and kind of show you where I started. Because when I started, man, it was tough for me. But I always had that vision. It was just like so clear. I knew that it had to happen. So I'm going to pretty much walk you down that path. You're going to take the journey with me. This is actually like one of the point that I want you to get to. So just tune in to the next episode, and you take care and see you in the next one.